There were very few families that did not comply. There was my family, there was one other very strong family that stood with us, and almost everybody else complied. Even some of the people that were at some of those groups I talked to or led some of the groups I talked to, they just said, well, I can't miss Johnny's football game or
Right.
Sally's volleyball game. And again, I started being a jerk about that and telling groups, missing one football game is like poking you in the arm. When now I tell you, if you don't, transgender Johnny into Jane, or I'll freeze your bank account that's all digital and all your credit cards and everything else, now what are you going to do?
Exactly.
That's like, cutting off your head. You not attending one of Johnny's football games is like a poke in the arm. But when now I tell you to transgender your kids or I freeze all your digital accounts, what are you going to do? And the transgender issue works very well in South Dakota. So that was a good example. I lucked out with that one.
So here's the thing, it's hard for people to imagine that that could happen, but I absolutely believe it will happen if they get financial transaction control. So, can they fathom that?
I kind of not really, because we live in Little House on the Prairie here, literally, which is great. Life is good. We don't have many low income people in this state. We have a very solid middle class in this state right now. It's very hard to get people to understand because they hardly know anybody that's been debanked or that's had those kind of
Right.
issues. So I've I've told people that I have been debanked, and I'm from Silicon Valley, so I'm kind of a little bit of a different story. And I don't like to talk about it, but people have pressured me into telling that story. And when I tell the story, people tend to get it.
So I use the Canadian truckers, and you're not that far from Canada. So do they realize what happened to the Canadian truckers and it could happen to them?